and also to limit the diplomatic presence of the US abroad. And reports suggest the Trump administration is looking to close nearly 30 overseas embassies and consulates globally. The proposal, contained in an internal departmental memo, recommends closing 10 embassies and 17 consulates in a move aimed at reducing Washington's footprint at the US diplomatic missions in several countries, especially in Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean. And key among them are Somalia and Iraq. That's not all. Embassies in Malta, Luxembourg, Lesotho, the Republic of Congo, the Central African Republic, South Sudan are all part of the list. And it only goes on expanding. The consulates which will be shuttered through this proposal reportedly include 5 consulates in France, 2 in Germany, 2 in Bosnia and Herzegovina, 1 in the UK, 1 in South Africa, 1 in South Korea. That's the embassies and consulates Trump is talking about. But would that mean that diplomatic operations in these parts would take a direct hit? Well, the document proposes a solution to that, as the closed embassies' duties will be covered by outposts in the neighboring countries. And that's significant because embassies and consulates in a way serve as important outposts for the U.S. State Department by providing services like visa processing, assistance for American citizens in need. Not just that, the posts also collect critical information to send back to Washington and often serve as important diplomatic tools as the U.S. looks to counter countries like China. But the bigger question here still is, what exactly prompted Donald Trump to propose such a move in the first place? At the core of it is the Trump administration's bid to shrink the federal government workforce, aided by Elon Musk-backed Department of Government Efficiency. Just to save government money, we've seen how that panned out over the last few months, with over 100,000 employees in various U.S. agencies affected either by mass layoffs or buyouts. In fact, next on the, as a part of the plans is the U.S. State Department, the budget of which is proposed to be lowered from $54.4 billion in 2025 to $28.4 billion in 2026. That's nearly 50%. Not just that, funding for educational and cultural exchanges like the Fulbright program, one of the most prestigious U.S. scholarships, is also under scrutiny. And if that wasn't enough, the new proposal also seeks to eliminate funding for international organizations, including the United Nations and NATO, which could have significant impact on international peacekeeping efforts and entail risks in the face of volatile world order and the implications. The Trump administration has answers, as it wants to channelize the money saved via these measures to promote democratic processes, counter drug trafficking, among others. But is the Trump administration moving a mile a minute with its deliberate cost-cutting initiative and simply getting ahead of itself? So much so that important institutions and enterprises are being sacrificed? Only time will tell. Schools in Hong Kong are reporting a worrying trend. Far few students are attending classes in recent years, a phenomenon that has drastically risen post-COVID-19. Students are complaining that daily tests in the regular curriculum as well as their extracurricular activities are becoming too overwhelming, which is why some don't want to attend school at all. But it's not just the grueling classwork that is causing the students to avoid the classroom. Many are also struggling to connect with their classmates and make friends, thanks to the remote or hybrid classroom format that became a routine during the COVID era and even beyond. The remote courses during COVID-19 brought in a sense of isolation among students, making it difficult for them to step out and interact with their batchmates. But it's one thing for all this to impact classroom activities and quite another to make students stop attending school altogether. And the numbers are not just in tens or hundreds. Thousands are chronically absenting themselves from schools, at times for as many as 7 days in a row. As per an SEMP report, the number of chronically absent students rose to 4,500 in 2022 to 23 and crossed 5,500 in the past academic year. But it's not just Hong Kong that is grappling with the problem. Even economies like the US, Britain, Australia are reporting significant post-COVID absenteeism. What's the way out? While on one hand, post-pandemic challenges are making a return to a normal academic schedule formidable for students, it does, however, present an opportunity for the educators. Educators now have the chance to redesign and restructure the usual school curriculums to not only meet the needs of the students, but also to equip them with social and communication skills, apart from focusing on academic knowledge alone. And this would make the students better prepared to face the world and even tackle modern challenges. In turn, help them find their way back to schools. The Russian ruble has emerged as the best performing global currency this year, gaining 38% against the US dollar, according to Bloomberg data. And that is well ahead of the Swedish krona, up 13%, and the Swiss franc, up 11%. Even gold, a traditional safe haven, has gained only 23%, while silver has risen 12%. The ruble's rise comes as Donald Trump's renewed tariff war shakes investor confidence in the dollar, triggering a broader retreat from U.S. assets. The surge in the ruble is being driven by a combination of aggressive domestic policies and external pressures. The Bank of Russia has raised interest rates to a record 21% to fight inflation and stabilize the economy. And at the same time, capital controls remain firmly in place, with foreign companies restricted from withdrawing assets, keeping money locked inside the country. And economists note that unlike most emerging markets, Russia has been insulated from capital flight due to these measures. The dollar slide is intensifying. With Wall Street warning of a potential U.S. recession, the euro has climbed over 9%. Shifting focus for now to the United States. The trend in abortions is showing a shift in America. According to new data, while the number of abortions increased slightly in 2024 from the year before, it is the state-wise variability of abortion rates that is posing fresh concerns. Let's tell you more. Research conducted by an institute that works for sexual and reproductive health and rights shows over 1 million abortions took place in 2024 across all states without near total bans. That marks less than a 1% increase from 2023 to 2024. However, researchers also found that abortion rates widely varied from state to state. While some American states experienced significant decreases, others are seeing notable increases. In Florida, roughly 12,000 fewer abortions were provided in 2024 than in 2023. This was largely due to the state's policy banning abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy that took effect in May 2024. Similarly, South Carolina provided about 3,500 fewer abortions in 2024 than in 2023. Again, this is attributed to the state's 6-week ban that the state Supreme Court upheld in August 2023. Both states recorded fewer abortions last year than in 2023. On the other hand, in Wisconsin, the number of abortions provided increased from about 1,300 in 2023 to about 6,000 in 2024, an increase of nearly 400%. Not just Wisconsin, states like Arizona, California, Ohio, Virginia also saw significant increases in the abortions provided in 2024 as compared to the year before. What explains this is the immediate question. Access to abortion in states like Wisconsin became largely unavailable after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned the Roe v. Wade in 2022 and struck down the constitutional right to abortion. However, a 2023 judgment ruled that abortion was not illegal in the state. A pattern seems to be unfolding here, with abortion becoming far more common in those U.S. states that had outlawed it in the first place. Since the 2022 Roe v. Wade order, over a dozen states have banned the procedure, and as a result, many people had no choice but to end their pregnancies in other states. But traveling to another state for abortion access has its challenges. It's not just complicated, but also requires financial and logistical help. In 2024, the number of such abortions declined by almost 10%. Due to the rise in telehealth services from providers in states with shield laws designed to protect from prosecution in states with abortion bans. This made 2024 a year with significant changes in state abortion laws, both to expand as well as to restrict access to care. Abortion rights are a sensitive issue in the U.S. The issue was a key election plank, in fact, in 2024 U.S. presidential election. Another question still is, will this pattern of overall rise in abortions across the U.S. persist, or will it reduce with policy changes under Trump 2.0? We'll have to wait and watch.